Hey, this is Jamey with Stonemeyer Games, and today's video is a little risky because I have not played this game for quite some time. It was on my list of games to talk about, and then I played a bunch of games this past spring, and it kind of got pushed to the back of that list. But that game is It's a Wonderful World, and it is an open-faced drafting game where you're drafting cards. Every round you're picking a card from an open-faced hand, which I thought was pretty cool that the cards are just open to other players. You put one in your tableau, or you recycle it. And if you put it in your tableau, you have to spend resources that you've accumulated to do so. And that ties into my favorite mechanism in the game, as I can recall. Hopefully I'm saying this correctly. But it was that you can accumulate these resources to put more cards in your tableau. But there's also a special bonus, a superiority bonus, for each resource type at the end of the round if you have the most of that resource type. And so you have this interesting choice as to, am I going to spend these resources to play more cards, or am I going to get cards that gain me enough resources to get up to that superiority level? And it was also neat in that it gives you a reason to pay attention to the other players in addition to the draft. So in addition to deciding, okay, I don't want this player to get this card, or I don't care if this player gets this card, you're also constantly paying attention to other players to see how their resource supply is going. So you might want to specialize. It gives you a reason to specialize in a certain resource in terms of production so that you can end up getting superiority in that resource. But then it can end up fluctuating because you might need to use that resource to spend on another card that's even better for you in terms of victory points. And that might pull you out of the superiority for that round. So I thought that was a really interesting concept in a drafting game with ultimately fairly low player interaction. It gives you a reason to pay attention to other players, which I think is great. I don't think player interaction always has to be about hurting other players. I think that's how we often associate player interaction with. This is more just like comparing yourself to other players, which I think is a great and very relevant way to have player interaction in the game. So that's my favorite mechanism in It's a Wonderful World. I know this is a little bit short, but I really haven't played in a long time. So if you've played this game more recently and you have a different favorite mechanism, or you want to clarify this mechanism, feel free to do so in the comments. Or if this idea of resource accumulation for comparison to other players, or any game where you're comparing something to other players, a majority bonus, something like that. If you have a different game that this mechanism reminds you of, feel free to mention that in the comments as well. Thanks.